Hey folks, welcome back to Chasing Giants TV. Today I'm planting my soybean plots and got several things here to show you. Hopefully some tips that you might use on your own property. But this plot, let's start with the plot itself. So this plot a year ago was in corn. And before we planted the corn, we came in and we applied biochar. So biochar is a product that you only apply once. It lasts hundreds of years in the soil. And lots of benefits. One of the main benefits is that nutrients in the soil will adhere to that biochar, and it'll hold it at the level in the soil where the plants can utilize it. So those nutrients, instead of leaching away deep into the soil or whatever, that biochar holds it right there in the first few inches of the soil where the plant can utilize it. And that's the biggest reason that I use it. But again, there's all kinds of benefits, and if just do a search for biochar and you can learn a lot about it. By the way, Green Prairie Seed Company will soon be selling biochar. We're just working out the final details right now. Then we will have it available there at Arthur, Illinois, and through our dealers. So if you got any interest in that, like I said, you apply it one time, and it's good for hundreds of years. But you need to apply a lot of it. They recommend between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds per acre. I apply it at 1,500 pounds just to be somewhere there in the middle. And I've done it to most of my plots. I've got a few left that I plan to do this year, and then I will have it on all my plots. But lots of benefits to that. So let's talk about the rye a little bit. So rye is a good weed suppressor. It has an allelopathic property, which is basically it's almost like a natural herbicide that suppresses weeds. In fact, you don't want to plant rye ahead of a corn crop because it'll suppress that corn. I've seen a couple of different situations where rye was followed up with corn and the corn looked really sad, sick, and pathetic. So you definitely don't want to do that. So anyway, I came in here about 5 days ago, or 5 days before I mowed yesterday, and I sprayed this rye. I used glyphosate, and I put a residual herbicide in as well. Kyber is the one I used. I just had a jug of Kyber in my shed that I'd started using a couple years back, and so I just finished off that jug. Lots of other herbicides you could use. I know we sell Boundary there at Real World. It works fantastic, but Kyber was the one that I had on hand this year and wanted to use up that jug. I sprayed it. You know, you could tell that the rye and the other plants were dying, that they were turning yellow, and it was getting dry enough for me to plant, so I wanted to get something done. But there was places in this plot where the rye was just so thick that I was afraid just driving through it with that drill, the soybeans were not going to do all that good. So I came in here yesterday and I mowed, and as you can see, this rye has been mowed in this plot, but I kept the mower about a foot off the ground. Let me show you here. So you can see I kept that mower about a foot off the ground because I want to leave some stubble. I want those little soybean plants to be hid down in that stubble. And you can also see that there's a lot of thatch on the ground. Yeah, this is just going to be fantastic for holding in moisture, suppressing weeds and everything. In fact, I'm wondering if I'm even going to have to spray for weeds in this plot. You know, with the fact that I used a pre-emergent herbicide and there's so much thatch on the ground and the effects of this rye, what I'm hoping is I don't have to come back and spray these soybeans, but just have to check back in for a later video on that. But that's my hope anyway. Couple other things I want to share with you while we're talking about this. Use the PH Outdoors G Series drill for my soybeans. Actually, I use it for everything on my farm except for my corn, and I have planted corn with this drill and it'll work. It's just the seed spacing is a little bit erratic, and I'm just a little bit anal about my plots, to be honest. So I've got a 4-row John Deere 7000 planter that I use for my corn plots. Everything else goes through the G Series drill. Yesterday I planted the new grain sorghum mix from Real World using that drill. Made a few adjustments and I'm right on to soybeans. Took maybe 2 minutes between switching from the sorghum to the soybeans, and there I go. I'm back in action planting soybeans. So one thing I do want to point out though is that a couple years back Real World came out with these charts that there's stickers basically that you put on the lid of your drill, and they give you the settings for our different seed mixes. So like the soybeans, there's 3 different rates that are represented on that chart. There's 50 pounds per acre, 60 pounds per acre, and 75 pounds per acre, and it gives you the settings for each, and then all the other products are on there as well. So you know, that chart was designed using figures for the old Genesis drills. And what I found is that the G series drills, it's off just a little bit. So if you have the newer G series from PH Outdoors, if your drill says PH Outdoors on it, you're going to need to tweak those settings just a little bit. And what I found on the soybeans was I was planting a little bit light. Using that chart, setting everything to that chart, I wasn't getting enough seed on. It was just a little bit shy. I mean, I'd still get a good crop, but it wasn't as heavy as I wanted due to the browse pressure I got here. So anyway, if you've got those charts and you've got the new pH drill, then you're going to want to check those settings. Don't just trust them and head to the field, because what I found was they're a little bit light. A couple other things I'll show you in my setup here. If I turn in this direction, you can see that switchgrass across. There's a little creek where those trees are, and then on the other side is a switchgrass field. Good bedding sanctuary. And then I got this long narrow food plot. Got my 360 blind. You can see the Real World Mosscanthus coming on there. The other side of that Mosscanthus is nothing but wide open ag country for miles. So that Mosscanthus is a great screen for me to slip into that blind right there over my shoulder. There we are. Sorry folks, I'm filming this with my phone, so kind of a little bit of a challenge. But so we got the switchgrass back there, and then we got this at the end of the plot. There's this woodlot. That woodlot's not real big. It's probably, I don't know, less than 10 acres, but good bedding cover in there. I own that woodlot. It's a sanctuary as well. So the deer, they will come from that wooded cover or come from the switchgrass to this plot. Long, narrow plot, so they feed along that long, narrow plot. Deer don't like to just stand in one spot. That's why I like long, narrow plots, because they will travel that length of that plot as they feed instead of standing in one spot. So that's kind of the setup right here. One other thing I want to show you while we're filming here is this Mosscanthus. So you see that Mosscanthus, you see the dead growth from last year there on top, and then you see that green growth. So right now that green growth is probably pushing 4 feet high. It's over my waist, and here we are in mid-May. That stuff will be every bit of 12 to 15 feet high come fall. But you know, a lot of people seem to think that those stalks from a year ago will green back up, and that's not what happens at all. It starts over every year at the ground and brand new growth. You don't have to mow it or burn it. I do mine about every 3 years. I think it helps if you do, but it's going to keep coming back whether you do that or not. And you know, anyway, that might alleviate some questions. I know we get a lot of questions on that, but you can mow it or not mow it. It comes back from the ground every year, not from those old stalks, and the growth rate is absolutely fantastic. If I turn around and you can see the blind behind me, that Mosscanthus is higher than the floor of that blind. So I mean, it does a great job screening as I come across that open ag country into that blind and hunt this long, narrow plot. But anyway, hope you guys get something from this video. I will give you a heads up that I'm going to be doing another one on the corn when I plant my corn plot. And there's a lot to learn on that corn one as well. Not saying that I'm the expert, but I got some ideas to share with you that hopefully will make your corn plots more successful as well. So stay tuned and look for that one.
everybody. Here this evening, May 14th. You see Don is drilling in some Gen 2 beans into what was a NutriCrave corn plot last fall. At the end of the season, he had the drone come in and overseed this wheat into the standing corn, and then allowed the wheat to come up this spring, mowed it off this afternoon, and going right back in with the Gen 2 beans.